Today is April 16th. Welcome to Big Book Daily. My name is Rob. I am an alcoholic. It's a thrill, honor, and joy to be here with you today as we journey through the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions. Today out of the Big Book, we are going to continue our journey through the personal stories, part 2, They Stopped in Time, and we're going to be finishing story number 5, My Chance to Live, pages 315 through 318. And out of the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, we're going to be reading a little bit more out of Step 12, page 115. So with all that, my friends, hope you're doing well today. We've been given a brand new set of 24 hours. It's up to us what we want to do with those hours. It's up to us today who we decide to be. So with all that, my friends, let's go ahead and get right to it. All right, my friends. So out of the Big Book, if you recall from yesterday's reading, our friend who we can definitely see that her life's becoming unmanageable, but she's young. And at first she almost says resentfully, I can't believe that I had to go to AA so young. Like, so many people got to enjoy more drinking than I did. But if you look at it on the flip side, she's in AA and possibly could be sober and live a sober life for most of her life. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. But anyways, so she meets this AA crowd at the restaurant she works at, and she's not at first too thrilled with them because they're not the best tippers in the world. They're a little loud and boisterous, but there is something about the joy that they have that attracts her. And eventually they invite her to go to some of the meetings. And at first she's it takes her a little while to admit that the drinking is the issue. But now you can see that things are certainly turning that way, and she's starting to realize that her alcohol is a problem, that her life is unmanageable. So the last paragraph, 90 days sober cleared my thinking enough to make me realize that I'd hit bottom. If I were to go back to drinking, it would be just a matter of time before one of two things happened. I'd succeeded at suicide, or I'd start the life of the living dead. I'd seen what the latter looked like. And real death was preferable. So we will go ahead and continue that thought and finish the story today. We're going to be reading 315 through 318. At this point, I surrendered. I admitted I was an alcoholic without a clue of what to do about it. Many of the people around me wanted me to go to treatment, but I resisted. I didn't want the kids at school to know what was going on. If I went to treatment, they'd all know within a week. And more importantly, I was afraid. I was afraid the treatment center would test me and say, "You're not an alcoholic, you're just crazy." My heart knew this wasn't true. My head took a little bit more convincing. The thought of having AA taken away from me was terrifying. AA was my anchor in the sea of confusion. Anything that might pose a threat to my sense of security was quickly thrust away. I didn't have anything against treatment centers then, nor do I now. I simply didn't want to go, and I didn't. I did stay sober. One summer, with people who enjoyed life sober, was all that it took for me to want sobriety more than I wanted to drink. I will not tell you that I did everything I was told, when I was told, how I was told, because I didn't. Like most people new to the program, I set out to find an easier, softer way. As the Big Book suggests, I could not. When I couldn't find an easier, softer way, I looked for the person with the magic wand, the one person in AA who could make me all better right now. This was a frustrating task, and I finally realized that if I wanted this life, I was going to have to do what the others had done. No one made me drink, and no one was going to make me stay sober. This program is for people who want it, not people who need it. If everyone who needed AA showed up, we'd be bursting at the seams. Unfortunately, most never make it to the door. I believe I was one of the lucky ones. Not just because I found this program at such a young age. I feel fortunate that I found AA at all. My approach to drinking brought me to the jumping off place described in the Big Book much faster than anyone could have imagined. I'm convinced if I had continued on my course, I wouldn't have survived much longer. I don't believe I was smarter than anyone else, as I'm often told by those who came in at a later age. It was my time, my chance to live, and I took it. If there still had been joy in my drinking, or even a remote chance of the joy returning, I wouldn't have stopped drinking when I did. No one who drank as I did wakes up on the edge of the abyss one morning and says, "Things look pretty scary. I think I better stop drinking before I fall in." I was convinced that I could go as far as I wanted, and then climb back out when it wasn't fun anymore. What happened was, I found myself at the bottom of the canyon thinking I'd never see the sun again. AA didn't pull me out of that hole. It did give me the tools to construct a ladder with 12 steps. Sobriety is nothing like I thought it would be. At first, it was one big emotional roller coaster, full of sharp highs and deep lows. My emotions were new, untested, and I wasn't entirely certain I wanted to deal with them. I cried when I should have been laughing. I laughed when I should have cried. Events I thought were the end of the world turned out to be gifts. It was all very confusing. Slowly, things began to even out. As I began to take the steps of recovery, my role in the pitiful condition of my life became clear. If asked what the two most important things in recovery are, I would have to say willingness and action. I was willing to believe that AA was telling me the truth. I wanted to believe that it was true in a way that I cannot relate in words. I wanted this thing to work. Then I began to take the course of action prescribed. Following the principles laid out in the Big Book has not always been comfortable, nor will I claim perfection. I have yet to find a place in the Big Book that says, "Now that you've completed the steps, have a nice life." The program is a plan for a lifetime of daily living. There have been occasions when the temptation to slack off has won. I view each of these as learning opportunities. When I am willing to do the right thing, I'm rewarded with an inner peace no amount of liquor could ever provide. When I am unwilling to do the right thing, I become restless, irritable, and discontent. It's always my choice. Through the 12 steps, I have been granted the gift of choice. I am no longer at the mercy of a disease that tells me the only answer is to drink. If willingness is the key to unlock the gates of hell, it is the action that opens the doors so that we may walk freely among the living. Over the course of my sobriety, I have experienced many opportunities to grow. I have had struggles and achievements. Through it all, I have not had to take a drink. Nor have I ever been alone. Willingness and action have seen me through it all, with the guidance of a loving higher power and the fellowship of the program. When I am in doubt, I have faith that things will turn out as they should. When I am afraid, I reach for the hand of another alcoholic to steady me. Life has not heaped monetary riches upon my head, nor have I achieved fame in the eyes of the world. My blessings cannot be measured in those terms. No amount of money or fame could equal what has been given me. Today, I can walk down any street, anywhere, without the fear of meeting someone I've harmed. Today, my thoughts are not consumed with the craving for the next drink, or regret for the damage I did on the last drunk. Today, I reside among the living, no better, no worse than any of God's other children. Today, I look in the mirror when putting on my makeup and smile, rather than shy away from looking at myself in the eye. Today, I fit in my skin. I am at peace with myself and the world around me. Growing up in AA, I have been blessed with children who have never seen their mother drunk. I have a husband who loves me simply because I am, and I have gained the respect of my family. What more could a broken down drunk ask for? Lord knows it is much more than I ever thought possible, and ever so much more than I deserved. All because I was willing to believe AA just might work for me too. Man, oh man, there are some nuggets of wisdom there. Beautiful way to describe sobriety. Cannot wait to come back to this in just a second. All right, my friends, so out of the 12 and 12, we're continuing our journey through step 12, which is having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And yesterday, we were talking about, one of the last lines was pretty powerful. When we're willing to place spiritual growth first, then and only then do we have a real chance. So we're going to build on that idea on page 115. After we come into AA, if we go on growing, our attitudes and actions towards security, emotional security and financial security, commence to change profoundly. Our demand for emotional security, for our own way, had constantly thrown us in unworkable relations with other people. Though we were sometimes quite unconscious of this, the result has always been the same. Either we tried to play God and dominate those about us, or we had insisted on being over-dependent upon them. Where people had temporarily let us run their lives as though they were still children, we had felt very happy and secure ourselves. But when they finally resisted or ran away, we were bitterly hurt and disappointed. We blamed them, being quite unable to see that our unreasonable demands had been the cause. When we've taken the opposite tack and had insisted, like infants ourselves, that people protect and take care of us, or that the world owes us a living, then the result had equally been unfortunate. This often caused the people that we had loved most to push us aside, or perhaps desert us entirely. Our disillusionment had been hard to bear. We couldn't imagine people acting that way toward us. We had failed to see that though adult in years, we were still behaving childishly, trying to turn everybody, friends, wives, husbands, even the world itself, into protective parents. We had refused to learn the very hard lesson that overdependence upon people is unsuccessful because all people are fallible. Even the best of them will sometimes let us down, especially when our demands for attention become unreasonable. All right, that kind of goes back to the my serenity is inversely proportional to my expectations of myself and of other people. You know, if I have really, really high expectations of other people, I'm going to have some low serenity. I'm going to be disappointed. But if I have low expectations, you know, and accept things just the way they are instead of the way they should be, it seems like the serenity, at least for me, does return. You know, and I'm still wrestling with that because I am still my own worst enemy, and I hold myself up to a standard that my wife's called me out on this. She says I hold myself up to a standard that no one can live by, and I'm still a work in progress there. I'm gonna keep praying about that one and keep working at that. But going back to the big book real fast. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that I can talk about here. This is one of my favorite stories, and just the way she describes sobriety. I love this line here on 315. This program is for people who want it, not people who need it. And then she follows that thought up. If everyone who showed up for AA were the people who needed it, man, they'd be busting at the seams. But that doesn't seem to be the case. AA is for people who want it. And when I started working with other alcoholics and trying to help, I realized that I can't want it for them. They gotta want it for themselves. Again, that kind of goes back to the expectations and me wanting to do the work for them. If they don't want it, and that's the foundation of step one, they don't admit that they're an alcoholic, that their life's unmanageable. There's nothing I can do aside from pray for them and be there for them. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but going back to it, she wanted it. And she says she considers, I believe that I was one of the lucky ones, and that's how I feel. If we're sober today, we're one of the lucky ones. And why us? I love the humility here. She says, I'm no smarter than anybody else. Her drinking was bad enough where she needed to stop. She didn't see any more joy in drinking at all. That's where I was. Somehow the God of my understanding brought me through the door of the fellowships. Somehow I decided to listen to the people around me that really helped me out and took me under their wing. Somehow, just one day at a time, I've remained sober. And I believe that I'm here for a reason. I mean, again, this is just my take on things. I believe I'm here for a reason. And maybe it's to help somebody else that might be going through the same exact thing. I love this. She says here, when I'm willing to do the right thing, I'm rewarded with an inner peace no amount of liquor could ever provide. When I'm unwilling to do the right thing, I become restless, irritable, discontent. It's always my choice. I always have a choice. I am not a victim. And today, I can decide to be who I want to be. There's always a choice. And finally on 318, life has not heaped monetary riches upon my head, nor have I achieved fame in the eyes of the world. My blessings cannot be measured in those terms. And I love this line. No amount of money or fame could equal what has been given me. Today, I can walk down any street anywhere without the fear of meeting someone that I harmed. Today, my thoughts are not consumed with craving for the next drink or regret for the damage I did on the last drunk. Today, I reside among the living, no better, no worse than any other of God's children. Today, I look in the mirror when putting on my makeup and smile, rather than shy away from looking at myself in the eye. Today, I fit in my skin. I am at peace with myself and the world around me. I love that line. Today, I fit in my skin. Finally growing into the person we were always meant to be. Love it. That's just beautiful. Great story and just a great representation and description of hope in sobriety. If you're sober today, you are a miracle. And I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you back here tomorrow.